Challenges of the Oceania Region by Cheyenne Andrews, Joshua Johnson, and Chad Justice. The Oceania region is comprised of Australia, New Zealand, and 22 countries and territories of the Pacific Islands. The population consists of 35 million, with 22 million in Australia, 4 million in New Zealand, and 9 million that inhabit the rest of the Pacific Island territories and countries. Significant challenges impacting the Oceania region economy and livelihood include climate change, exploration of natural resources, and energy dependency. Climate change has severely affected the region by contributing to the rising sea levels, disruption to wildlife, erratic weather patterns, and increased temperatures. The region has an abundance of natural resources and is rich in marine resources, specifically fish and other mineral resources. Lastly, the region is highly dependent on energy imports, therefore contributing to high energy costs, degrading energy security. Renewable energy is a viable alternative because of the abundance of wind, water, and sun in this region. In what is known as the Big Thaw, the Earth's glaciers continue to melt. In 1910, President Robert Taft created a glacier national park which was home to 150 glaciers. Since then it has decreased to only 30, and of those 30s, the glaciers have shrunk on average by 2/3 in size. With the temperatures rising, the ice continues to melt, which flows into the sea, thus expanding the volume of the sea. The annual rate of the rise of sea level over the past 20 years has risen by 0.13 inches a year, which is roughly twice the average speed of the preceding 80 years. This region is home to an abundance of low-lying atolls that are at risk of being completely submerged. With the sea levels rising and wave-driven flooding, these small islands are also at risk of being drained of their freshwater resources. This would make these atolls uninhabitable by the human race. Fishermen in this region have reported an increase of dead fish washing up on shore. Fish are sensitive to the temperatures of the water where they live, and with the water temperature continuing to rise, the fish are migrating to areas where the temperature is just right for them. Coral bleaching has become another issue in this region. Coral bleaching happens when the water is too warm. As the water continues to become more warm, coral bleaching has become an increase to marine life. This has become a significant issue because the coral reefs are home to 1% of the world's marine life. Humans emitting greenhouse gases cause global warming, and warmer air can hold more water vapor. As the temperatures increase, the amount of moisture that can be held in the air increases as well. These effects lead to increased rainfall that leads to an increased risk of flooding. With temperatures rising, sea levels also continue to rise. The rising sea temperatures have led to a global decline in phytoplankton productivity. Phytoplankton has become a precious source within the food chain, and without them, there's no saying the drastic effects that it could have on marine life as a whole.
Climate change, a few years ago, we didn't know what was climate change. Maybe 5 years ago, started to notice change in the weather pattern. Compared to the last few years, there was a sudden change.
We have experienced the effects of climate change in a number of ways here in Fiji. For example, the Category 5 storm we experienced last year, it caused huge damage to our infrastructure, wiped out almost a third of our GDP. We lost about 44 of our loved ones. There was massive damage to schools and personal property and homes.
Most of the damages that we are seeing right now has been contributed by climate change.
Everything has changed from the certain to the uncertain. The rise in sea levels have prompted villages to request government to ask for relocation. A lot of areas that were thought to be safe have now become danger areas. That's what climate change has brought.
Hello, I'm Cheyenne, and I will be speaking about the exploitation of natural resources in the Oceania region, specifically unregulated seabed mining, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, and the remedies to those problems. Unregulated seabed mining. New sources of metals are being sought to make cell phones and electronics. For Oceania, seabed mineral resources present an opportunity for advancing economic development. The Tongan government is unable to properly manage seabed resources within the country's exclusive economic zone. This zone expands 200 nautical miles from the coastline. The Tongan government is further promoting deep-sea mining operation in international waters by foreign firms. This opens a country to environmental liability and financial risk. Cobalt crusts are one type of mineral resource. The truth of the matter is, even if the seabed mining was regulated, it's very destructive. For example, the cobalt crust, the way it's harvested is they're stripped, and in doing so, that would kill all creatures on the cobalt crust, such as corals. Illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. $1.7 billion is lost annually to illegal fishing in Oceania. There are 22 island nations that are financially dependent on their local fisheries. IUU fishing causes overfishing of certain species, which disrupts the ecosystem, and there use destructive fishing practices. For example, they use commercial poison to capture reef fish live, but that kills the other fish and damages coral. Also, they use the destructive fishing method of blast fishing. It kills hundreds of fish at once, but it also destroys coral reefs. The uncontrolled dumping of trash by the IUU boats destroys environments, and failure of IUU boats to adopt methods and reduce the catch of non-target species, such as sharks, can disrupt the ecosystem by taking away the predator. Remedies. Oceania has an exclusive economic zone that spans 1.3 million miles. One remedy is to have various agencies assist in the patrolling of Oceania's waters. Greenpeace helps, the U.S. Coast Guard and Navy, and Australia-led patrol boats. Another remedy is regional fisheries management organizations. In the Oceania region, that is the Commission for the Conservation and Management of Highly Migratory Fish Stocks in the Western and Central Pacific Ocean. Another remedy is to regulate foreign fishing vessels as far as their port arrangements, so not to allow any boats that participate in IUU fishing to restock in ports. Also, to have sustainable development. The Cook Island has declared their entire EZZ a marine park.
Hello, I'm Joshua Johnston, and I'll be discussing energy dependency. The Oceania region is highly dependent on and imports of fossil fuels in the region to sustain its energy consumption. The region consists of thousands of islands throughout the Central and South Pacific Ocean, to include Australia and New Zealand. Due to the geographical footprint of the Oceania region, the primary mode of conveyance for energy imports is by vessel, therefore making renewable energy highly attractive. In the following slides, I will discuss overall dependency, challenges of energy imports, and renewable energy. The Pacific Island countries' dependency on fossil fuel causes significant issues in fuel prices and security of supply. This is the most dependent region in the world on imported fuels at 95% dependency, and imported fuel imports account for an average of 40% of gross domestic product. 75% accounts for transportation and 20% accounts for electricity. Only 20% of households in the Pacific region or island have access to electricity and electric electricity prices in the region are among the highest in the world. Resources such as coal are available in the region. However, due to the Oceania region's commitment to positively affecting climate change, they are unable to explore these options. Australia, for example, must keep 90% of its coal in the ground to ensure it's not violating the carbon budget by staying 2 degrees below the global warming. Volatile fuel prices, high dependency can significantly impact the overall economy. Fiji Islands are stating their dependency on fossil fuels increases energy prices and negatively impacts the nation's energy security. On Australia, crude oil is imported from the Middle East and processed at refineries in South Korea, China, and Singapore. Since they are heavily reliant on outside countries, this affects the region's fuel reserves and could significantly degrade energy resources. Global events such as the conflict in the Middle East, Paris Climate Agreement, and new regulations could significantly halt or delay fuel imports into the Oceania region. If countries deplete their fuel reserves, it could virtually shut down major countries, which would have an adverse effect on the country's economic system. The high dependency on fossil fuel makes renewable energy a vital alternative to energy resources. These initiatives will favor climate change and reduce energy costs and increase energy security in the region. Additionally, this will bolster investments in foreign business regarding renewable projects and build sustainable business in the region. The most significant disadvantage are the highly investment costs along with relying on unpredictability of the climate. Countries such as New Zealand have significantly ramped up efforts to become a global leader in renewable energy. Currently, renewable energy accounts for 60 to 70% of the country's electricity, and U.S. hydro, geothermal, wind, biogas, and solar energy sources. The region has also banned any new offshore oil and gas exploration by rescinding all permits and deterring new entrants from entering the sector. The countries such as Australia have the appropriate conditions to make advantage of renewable energy due to the abundance of wind, sun, and land. As shown in the next video, companies such as Vesta and Tesla are also investing in the region by closing on 160 million renewable energy projects combining wind, solar, and storage technologies.
It appears Tesla CEO Elon Musk won a really expensive bet. We're talking like $50 million. A while back, Musk promised to help solve South Australia's energy problem. The state suffers from power blackouts due in large part to a gas supply problem. It's an issue throughout Australia, but South Australia feels a lot of it. To remedy the problem, Musk bet he could install an operable Tesla battery system within 100 days from the date a contract was signed, or it would be free. Surprise, surprise, he did it. The start date was September 29th. Now the battery is built, and it needs to go through some testing to make sure it meets South Australia and Australian energy requirements. It'll go live December 1st. The battery charges on energy generated from the Hornsdale wind farm and has 100 megawatts of capacity. Tesla says once it's running, the power pack will have enough energy to power over 30,000 homes. That's a pretty big deal for South Australia. The state experienced a crippling blackout in September 2016 following major storms. It left around 1.7 million people in the dark. And AEMO, the Australian energy market operator, says unless immediate action is taken, Australia could face a major gas supply shortage come 2018, and South Australia would be one of the first hit.
Significant challenges in the Oceania region include climate change, exploration of natural resources, and energy dependency. Chad discussed the impacts of climate change in the region, which are significant with the rising sea levels, erratic weather patterns, and increased temperatures. While this can be damaging to the Oceania region ecosystem and nature, it is vital to ensure that the region understands and implements measures to reduce climate change. Cyan discussed the exploration of natural resources. Oceania is rich in marine resources, and deep sea mining poses grave threats to the global sustainability. Alternatives to deep sea mining are available and can be found in the movement of economies towards more sustainable methods. Finally, I discussed energy dependency in the region. Energy industry is highly volatile, and due to unpredictability and high costs, the Oceania region would benefit from renewable energies. By reducing emissions can prevent the damages effects of are from climate change, therefore preserving nature and industries in the region.